Hey guys, Aries here, going to be doing a coaching-esque video. I had to downscale my resolution because I was getting massive frame drops. And I know it's gonna look pretty crappy, but bear with me. I'm going to be doing a lot more paint sort of stuff, showing rotation, showing positioning. So hopefully that's not going to be too bad. And before we jump right into the game, I'll just be going, or I guess I'll just say, I'm going over the Jax's game. And I am first going to open up these and just kind of go over the masteries. So first, what I see is 2190. That's not unusual. One thing I see that isn't, it's situational, but it's not the worst thing to do, is 2 into Warlord, or I guess, or 3 into Warlord. Yeah, okay, so I would have liked to see, put 1 more into Devastating Strikes and then put into Feast and Butcher, or even put into Butcher and Double-Edged Sword. Now, why do I not like Warlord? Well, when you're playing Jax, the only AD that you are going to be getting is off of the Phage and off of the Bilgewater Cutlass. So that's only about 40 AD. 40 bonus AD. So really 40, what's 5% of 40? Not a lot. So really you're not getting very much, well you're not getting any, really. So you're not getting a lot of bonus AD off of this Warlord anyways. So it would be better to just have 1.5 or 2% flat damage. So 2% flat damage is going to give you a lot more damage than the 5% bonus attack damage, because you're not building any attack damage as Jax. Most of the time, you're going to go Blade of the Rune, or you're going to go Triforce, Blade of the Rune King, a Warden Mail item, a Spectre's Cowl item, defensive boots, and then typically another defensive item. Or some sort of utility item, something like that. So, yeah, so I don't really like getting Warlord on Jax. Also, don't get Frenzy on Jax, you're not getting any crit. I like Blade Weaving and Spell Weaving a lot, same with Expose Weakness, because, Jax has a lot of, he's almost like a caster, so he has a lot of spell damage going off, he has a lot of mixed damage going off. I like that. The CDR, I like it because of his Counter-Strike. It makes his lane trades a lot better. I do like Unyielding, but you don't really need it, especially when you're against a Lissandra in lane. So this is fine. I would like the plus 3% maximum health. As Jax, you are building a lot of health. So again, you're getting health off of your Randuins if you decide to get it. You're getting health off of your Banshee's Veil if you decide to get it. You're getting health off of your Triforce, and then if you decide to get another health item. So there is a lot of health to be there's a lot to be gained by 3% bonus health, effectively, that, I just feel like it would be nice. So, yeah, and then, of course, Unyielding isn't that bad to get. You don't you don't absolutely need it, but I don't know, I like Juggernaut on Jax. Okay, gonna check runes very quickly. Looks like he's just doing an AD/AP match, rune page, or setup. So this is fine. The 1 crit, yeah, I like that. This is AD, this is AD. These could also be attack speed on Jax. Armor and MR, I'm guessing? Yeah, so what I would also like to see, maybe either magic resist or health based off of your matchup for glyphs, and then scaling health yellows. And then maybe attack speed quints and hybrid pen reds. That would be really nice, because Jax, again, he has a lot of mixed damage, he has a lot of spell damage. He really likes attack speed, which, again, you have off of these, so I guess it's not that bad. Maybe even a move speed quint, so he can chase people down. But again, this rune page will work for what he's doing. He is Silver 3 right now, but his MMR is around Gold from last season. So, yeah, so I'm going to go back, and let's look at the game. Just going to set this up quickly, and again, I apologize for the crappy quality. I need a better computer, but I am in no position to buy one right now. So yeah, hopefully this is alright. Okay, so first thing I do not like is, I'm hoping this is just a refresh error off of the spectator server, but I don't like getting an ability right away. What if you get caught out because you're guarding a red buff and you need to place your trinket down over here and ward hop away? Well, now you can't do that because you haven't, you've already used your skill point. So I don't like starting skill point. Like at the beginning of the game, you want to get your skill point as late as possible. And most of the time, as Jax, you can start any skill point you want, or any ability you want. Counter-Strike would give him the most all-in potential level 1, because it also works against minions. For maximum pushing and maximum burst, you can start with your W. It gives you, the auto attack reset, which works really nice for pushing waves and for auto harassing your opponent, which I'll touch on in a sec. So the first thing I see is maybe he's just kind of AFKing. Maybe he's not really able to. Maybe he's actually doing stuff. I don't know. Maybe he went to get a drink or something. Maybe he's AFK here. In which case, that would be fine to stand away from everything. But in perfect situation, around 50 minutes or 50 seconds, 55 seconds, around there, ward the tri-brush, stand by red. Now what you can also do is at 55, ward here, and run around and stand here, so that it's not like they can clamp on you and trap you in this brush. This brush is actually very dangerous to stand in at the beginning of the game. If you get clamped, I guess pincered from the tri-brush and the bot side, you have nowhere to go. If you run this way, you're just making it really easy for them to run up and then land a hook, land a bind, something like that. So again, 55 seconds, you ward here, or you ward here, and you stand in the, if you ward behind red, you'll stand in the tri. If you ward the tri, I would not stand in this brush, I would stand a little bit further back into this choke. It makes it a little harder for them to land any CC on you, so you won't have to burn any summoners, or you won't potentially die. So yeah, so this is obviously strictly dominating to standing top and not really granting any vision or control or safety for your jungler. And again, that's the first thing I would really say. So don't get an ability point or a skill point at the beginning of the game. Use your trinket around 55 seconds, so it's up at the 255 mark. Maybe use it a little bit earlier, so that it's up in time for the initial jungle gank, either top or mid, if he starts on the bottom half of the map. So deep ward here, you don't know that they know where your jungler might be or where he might not be. So this isn't really good. But again, it is mid-silver or gold-ish level, so it's not going to matter all that much. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit through this to see where the actual matchup begins. Now, top lane matchups is really fun, melee into ranged. I know this matchup extremely well as Ryze instead of Lissandra. As Ryze, because you like the utility tree, you can get, it used to be called Pickpocket, but the mastery point where you auto them as a ranged champion, you get 3 gold. That's actually really nice on Ryze if you're ranged into melee, because you'll be auto harassing them a lot. That's training, you'll be training the shit out of them. Okay, melee matchup as a top laner into a ranged champion, you really want to make use of these brushes. That's really what this matchup's going to come down to. And as the Lissandra, in that case, you're going to want to, you're basically free to control this lane as much as you, or however you want. So what you can do is, I can't actually get full control over here, but I'll try and see how this works. So I'll print screen there. I'll go over to paint, and I'll try moving it here. Hopefully my, okay, so there you go. Awesome. I'm gonna set up the usual colors, and yeah, okay, so what we can see is in this matchup, what's going to happen is Jax is basically going to just keep running around until he can get, there's the brush over here, there's the brush here, and there's the brush here. Okay, so what is Jax going to want to do? He's going to want to run in here and basically run in here and kind of play it like a Rengar almost, Whenever he can last hit, he's going to run in and last hit, and then he's going to run back in the brush. This is going to make it so that Lysandra isn't able to just run up this way and just like auto Jax back to the tower. If Lysandra wants to train Jax a little bit and try and make him lose CS or lose experience, she's going to have to place a trinket in one of these brushes. Now, that's actually not a bad thing for the Jax player because he knows that there is no way that Lysandra would have a ward here in the river if she were to ward one of these brushes. So this is actually really nice if you're the Jax player and you see, or if you're any melee top laner and you see that your opponent has warded one of these brushes early on in the game, you tell your jungler to gank top as soon as possible. If not, use these brushes to your advantage, so you can, it's basically the, what's it called? Kind of like a whack-a-mole, where you have the minions, kind of frozen, or actually, they'd be frozen here. We're using reverse colors, but they'd be frozen like that, so really you do the little whack-a-mole thing where you go out, you whack them, and then you go back in the brush. Where you go out, you hit them, and you go in here. You go out, you hit, and you run back in here. You just keep, like, rinse and repeat like that. And that way you can farm safely and get as much experience and gold as possible without taking, while taking as little damage as possible from the ranged top laner. And then likewise, as the ranged top laner, you are going to want to try and get as much poke harass on to the melee top laner, because inherently in the kits, and this is kind of something from Terra, it's an MMO, it was the whole warrior versus archer dynamic, is the thing that makes a ranged hero, champion, player, whatever you want to, like in any game, dominant over a melee character is their range. They are able to kite, they are able to chase, they are able to harass the melee person before they can close the distance. Now the whole thing behind that is if the melee player is able to close that distance, the ranged player is in a lot of trouble just based on how the balancing of those types of champions or heroes or players work. So the big thing that makes these players, or heroes, champions, whatever, balanced is that the ranged player can poke, but they're actually very susceptible to these melee ranged fights. So if the Jax player can ever close the gap onto the Lysandra, and this is very obvious, Lysandra's a lot squishier than Jax at the beginning of the game until she can get her Abyssal and her Zhonya's. So the Jax is going to want to abuse this by using these brush and abusing the vision control or lack thereof. Now, because Jax wants to dominate the top half of the map so heavily, the basic thing behind the whole lane setup is you're mirroring the opponent's movements. You always want to try and grab as much control of the lane as possible while maximizing the range. So yes, Jax wants to close the gap on Lysandra in fights, but most of the time he wants to keep his distance so that Lysandra can't get free damage onto him. Likewise, Lysandra wants to stay, pretty safe so that Jax can't leap onto her. And or pull minion aggro, do anything like that, because early on minion aggro is worth much more damage than anything that Jax can do to you. So if you harass Jax, you want to make sure that these minions aren't just going to chase you. And the way you do that is if Jax is controlling the top side, you want to make sure you control the bottom side. Now this is really big for laning positioning and jungle mechanics, because if Jax is at the top half of the map and he's trying to CS this area, or CS like this, you're going to rotate downwards. You're going to try and CS like that around this area. And what this is going to do is give you complete control over the vision, or over the river. If you know that Jax is hugging the top half of the map so hard, as like we're assuming you're the Lysandra player now, if Jax is hugging the top half of the map of the lane so hard because he wants this farm, there's no way that he can get a ward on the river. So this is really strong for river ganks from Kha'Zix, because that there's no way that Jax can have control over that area. But now, if Kha'Zix runs up river in a couple minutes, maybe around 6 minutes, and Jax hasn't had a chance to ward that, if Kha'Zix runs up, and as soon as he gets, maybe within range of the brush that's like down there, Jax backs off, that within 3 minutes at most, Sejuani was top, because how else is a ward going to get there? Someone has to place it. So either their mid laner's top side, or has been in the last few minutes, or their jungler's on that side of the map. And that's how you can infer a lot of things about where the jungler can be, and this is why I touch on the whole assuming versus expecting. So you can't just assume that, hey, maybe their jungler's here, but you can expect or infer, draw conclusions based on how the enemy laner's moving, based on where your allies are moving in terms of vision control. So that's all I really wanted to touch on. So the big thing here is as Jax, you want to try and hug the top side, but as Lissandra, you can mirror that and you can actually take advantage of that. And this is important when you're the Jax player because this is one of your weaknesses, is if you want, it's the trade-off. It's the whole idea behind economics that you have limited resources and you have to make decisions under scarcity. So the trade-off here is, okay, you want this early farm where you're going to have to do it in a little bit of darkness until either your jungler can come up, or until you bully Lissandra, you outplay, or your wave gets pushed in to a point where you can clear under tower, wait for the wave to reset, and then go and ward river. So hopefully that's pretty simple. It's not too difficult yet. And yeah, so let's just get back in the game and see where it's going so I don't fall way too far behind this. Alrighty. Yeah, so those are just some things to keep in mind. Likewise, if you feel like it's going to be a bloody lane as Jax, you can open Dorn Shield even into a Lissandra. You know, the previously mentioned reasons, Lissandra's going to want to auto-attack the Jax a lot to train him. Also, minion damage is considered an auto-attack. It's a basic attack. So your Dorn Shield is blocking Lissandra training, and it's blocking minion damage. So that's really, really big. I wouldn't obviously go Cloth 5 because it's not doing a lot against a heavy AP top laner. Longsword 3-pot is a possibility. It gives you a little bit more sustain in the early stages of the game, assuming it's not really a farm lane. Doranblade, you know, you would want to take that over Cloth or Longsword 3-pot if you're able to auto attack a lot, but into a ranged top laner you might not be able to as much as into someone like a Tryndamere or someone like a another melee top laner for basically. So Cloth or Longsword 3-pot or even Dorn Shield might be a better initial buy or a better start instead of Doranblade, but again, it's going to come down to how much can you auto attack in this lane. So yeah. Okay, so first thing is the Jax player isn't pushing the wave, and I would really like to see this being pushed. Again, Jax has a very, very strong late game, mid game, everything like that. He really likes levels, and it's very important as a top laner, especially like as any champion in solo queue, but more especially your solo laners, is you really want this level 2 spike. What does Jax get level 2? Well, he gets his leap. And the big thing with the leap strike is you can counter strike, throw that on, auto attack the Lissandra a bit, maybe stun her, auto her, and then when she goes to reciprocate damage, you can leap away. So that basically you'll win every single trade once you hit level 2. Permitted you're only engaging when your cooldowns are up. So make sure that you can get the level 2 before Lissandra. So Lissandra started Q. This also means that she's not going to be able to stun you or slow you if you go on her, and if you do the QE combo, which I don't like a lot. It's very overrated. That's a really good way to get caught out. But you counter strike on her as soon as you hit level 2. She's not level 2 yet. She doesn't have Glacial Path to run away. She also doesn't have Ring of Frost to stun you. So you'll win out on that trade. You might even be able to force her out of lane. You'll also get the level 3 first, and it's just going to be a really, really nice situation. So don't freeze in this situation. Just keep trying to push the lane as hard as you can. Make Lissandra have to use her mana to make sure that this wave doesn't push into tower. What this is also going to do for you is if Lissandra allows this to push in, this whole brush versus giving up river control dynamic doesn't really matter anymore, because you can just push it, get river all warded up, and then go back to the normal laning dynamic where you do hug the top side a little bit. So this early game push is really, really, really important here. So, but always, again, you would freeze it so that you can get the last hit, but seeing as you missed a minion already, that freeze is already not, or that slow push, whatever you want to call it, is already not paying off. And now Lissandra doesn't really have to use any mana to push this. It's going to push anyways. She can push it with auto attacks. You're not making her use any resources here. And since she went Dorn Ring, she has the extra potion on you. So already you're not setting yourself up to have a very easy laning phase. So, always push the wave as early as possible in solo queue. So, yeah. Okay, so here, maybe, the experience range is pretty big. They did increase it a couple patches ago. But one thing that you can do is stay up here. This is also gonna, like, this will just ensure that you get all the experience. Now, Lysandra did use her trinket. Oh yeah, that's right, over here. So she doesn't have it up, and that's really, really good, because basically all you really need to do to win this lane is run in here. I'll do another paint thing. Okay, so I'll just try to illustrate it. Okay, so all you need to do in the laning phase to win the laning phase is you are Jax, you are right here. What you do is you run this way, and you run right there, and you just stay here. Lysandra knows you're in this brush. There is no way that Lysandra is going to face check this brush. She might use her Q to check the brush, but if you assume, or you expect, or you infer, and this is, you're just kind of testing to see what kind of player the Lysandra is. Because the Lysandra might Q the minions to push it. The Lysandra might run in here and run up this way and Q through the brush. The Lysandra might Q to the front of the brush, or the Lysandra might Q to the back of the brush to check it. And this is actually really important, and this is something I do in ARAMs all the time with the brush control, is do they check the brush at the, do they think you're standing at the front of the brush, or do they think you're standing at the back of the brush? Based on where they think you're standing, you can keep track of this. Do they always think you're standing at the front? If they do, stand at the back. If they keep missing and you just notice that they started switching to where they're attacking the back of the brush, stand at the front of the brush. Now Lysandra is wasting, I should know the mana costs, wasting 85 mana every Q to try and find you, and you're not taking any of this damage because you've already figured out where she's going to be aiming her Q if she decides to check the brush like that. Or there's the possibility that she just pushes the wave with her Q. Again, the idea here is you're making her use mana. Now she's not going to be as comfortable in the laning phase because she's not full mana. She might end up exhausting a lot of her mana, and now she can't full combo you. So already you're making the lane a lot safer and a lot easier for yourself. Also, again, she's not going to know that you're in here. She's going to know that you're in here, but she's not going to be able to say you're in here for a fact. So there is always that inherent pressure that maybe you recalled. Maybe if you recalled, you could teleport bottom. Now, that's not the case at 2.5 minutes in the game, but this does provide a lot of pressure onto the Lysandra player to do something. So here you're making your opponent respond to you. And again, you're completely safe because Lysandra doesn't have a ward. Now, you don't know that Lysandra doesn't have a ward here, but again, you could fix that by just warding the tri-brush and then standing by red at the beginning of the game. You'll know if your opponent warded, and if they warded, just abuse this brush control so much, and you'll just make the Lysandra feel very, very uncomfortable. And that's really good. When people are uncomfortable, they play, kind of unpredictable. They kind of get tilted, and I touched on this in the video I uploaded yesterday. Or I guess the rotation video about getting them on tilt. There is a large psychological aspect to this game. And standing in this brush kind of, just gets them a little bit uncomfortable, and that's really good. So, yeah, so that's all you really need to do is just stand in that brush. Run into the brush and stand in there, because there's nothing that Lysandra can really do to you at this point. And yeah, so push it and just stand in the brush. That's really all there is to it. I'm going to go a little bit faster through here so that I don't have like a 2-hour video. So, and this is kind of funny because the lane has actually gone kind of the opposite way here. Lysandra's giving up river control for brush control, even though if Jax takes brush control, Lysandra's at an advantage. So this is kind of weird. I would expect to see something like this if Kha'Zix is going for a level 3 gank or a level 2 gank, and he's not. So there's no real reason to push Jax into the river. Because again, we know that this is what's going to happen. Lysandra runs up this way, Jax runs down this way. Now Jax has river control, but Lysandra has brush control and lane control, unless she runs up here to cue the back line of minions to push it harder into the tower. But see, that's a little bit strange, because it just gives Jax the ability to ward this, or to get caught out by the Kha'Zix who's ganking. But there's no Kha'Zix ganking, so running up the top half of the lane by the Lysandra is a little bit weird. But I don't know, it's fine if the Jax doesn't have any vision, because again, you're also doing that mind game where I don't know where Kha'Zix is, what if he's ganking here, I have to get out. And if Jax decides to run up this way to get out, that's a lot of free poke that he's going to give the Lysandra. So, yeah. Just gonna keep going like this. Okay, so Lysandra got the early level 2. This is what you do not want to have happen, especially in a melee to ranged matchup. Looks like she ended up getting Ring of Frost second, so when you see this, you'll know that she's not looking to escape right away. So see, and again, Lysandra, she ran up this way, and then the Jax had to run back. If the Jax was standing right here, it looks like the Jax used the trinket earlier, but you know, it's also like the old Mordekaiser sort of matchups when he was very popular mid lane into Diana and Katarina, is you'd always want to be standing away from him, so you give him the ultimatum. Do I want to damage the champion or do I want to damage the minions? I can't maximize my cooldown because I can't hit both. Same thing with Lysandra. It's the same thing against Illusion. Anyone with those linear skill shots that pierce, you know, don't stand in line with your minions and the enemy, because then you're just, you know, giving, you're basically giving Lysandra everything she wants. She'll get a Q that will also train the enemy laner. And this would have been avoided if you were standing in this brush, because she can't, like, she wouldn't be able to stand up here if you were in this brush. She also has teleport, so there is not a lot of kill potential here. And you wouldn't be this low in the lane if you were just abusing the brushes a little bit, or making use of them. So now you have level 2. There's the leap strike, so that's fine. And here what you can do is just throw on your counter strike to last hit. Like right here, throw on counter strike and just last hit. This is fine to do because you are max mana. The only thing is you'd have to be careful for a dive. But at this point, you know, you don't need to be missing these types of minions here. Again, counter strike. You already know there's nothing you can do really at this point to make this wave not push into your tower. So shoving it a little bit with the counter strike isn't that big of a deal. It's just going to make sure that Lysandra can't really damage you and you'll still be getting a lot more farm. But this is a really bad position to be in as the Jax. You're getting out leveled, you're getting out farmed, and again, all of this just comes down to position or lane positioning at the beginning of the game. And when something like that happens where your bot lane starts to die, you need to make sure you're in a position to be able to you know, get fed more than what Caitlyn might get fed. Missed the cannon, that's unfortunate. Yeah, gonna miss that. Uses the counter-strike to go in now. This doesn't make a lot of sense. You're giving up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minions, and you actually might die here because you used your disengage to engage. So, well, you know, you probably won't die, but if she stuns you and these minions were a little bit closer, that's a ton of damage. You'd be out of lane. So, here you need to get out before this stun wears off, because this is a really bad position to be in. Okay, so Lysandra doesn't use her glacial path. Could have used that, but yeah, so I don't really like the EQ combo because you are susceptible to something like that. If she were to W, it looks like she's using all of her cooldowns on the minions, but yeah, if she were to W you and then EQ you with the minion wave coming up, you'd be in a lot of trouble. And you use your disengage to initiate, and now if she just freezes like this, your wave is pushing into her, she can farm safely. So you're putting Lysandra in a favorable position for the next minute and a half, and that's not that good, especially when you are behind and you are really low. If she had Ignite right now, you'd be really dead. Okay, so let's see. The Lysandra's dead. Or, nope, okay. Yeah, so misplays from both players. I'm not going to focus too much on the actual fight because it is gold, it is silver. I'm not going to show it just so that it's more of the, more like stressing the whole large decisions thing. But what you know, as the Lysandra, obviously you want to try and get Jax into your minions. This would have been, actually I'm gonna show a little bit of it because it's gonna make it a little easier to explain. Okay. So, oh, can I not pause anymore? Oh, my pause broke. Okay. Okay, so at this point in time, you have to be really careful because if you draw minion aggro, you're taking a lot of damage. You're level 2, she's level 3. Incidentally, this gives you a full level, but right here, what the Lysandra could have done is W flash out of the Counter-Strike EQ, and you'd be dead. You'd be slowed, you'd be taking a lot of minion damage. And at this point, you know, Lysandra has full cooldowns, I think, and maybe it just bugged out. Okay, although the Lysandra isn't using potions, so whenever you're low, like this is 150 plus a little bit because of the mastery, but this is a lot of health that Lysandra could be full health right now with, what was that, 50? 10 extra, 20 extra mana. So this is really big, and there'd be no way that Jax could actually lose or win this fight here. So that is a misplay by the Lysandra. So don't just assume that you can actually do trades like this against everybody. This is really way too risky, but considering the Lysandra misplayed it, it turned out favorable for you. Now at this point, if you were a little more healthier and the Lysandra didn't have any health potions, this would be something to entertain, because you have a reinforcing minion wave here with 3 other minions here, and you know, if you fight the Lysandra in this, she's gonna draw a minion and a half aggro onto you, or onto herself, before her minion wave has a chance to reinforce. So yeah. And then also in that instance, what you could have done is flash E, then W right away, get her to flash, and then leap strike onto her. But again, you're really low, so that's really risky. So yeah. So in cases like that, again, way too low to really do anything. You're better off saving your summoners and saving, like, you're gonna use a summoner anyways, so you're better off recalling earlier and using your teleport to come back to lane, because you know, you use a teleport on the tower, that's a 4-minute cooldown, your flash is on a 5-minute cooldown. Doing something like that, oh no, you're still using a summoner, but now it's on a 1-minute less cooldown. In a situation like this, there's no reason to teleport to the minion. It's not like, the only reason you would teleport to a minion is if you're doing a teleport gank in a different lane across the map, or if you're teleporting to a minion that's on a tower that allows you to push extremely hard so that the tower doesn't kill it. Those are the only times you should be teleporting to minions. Any other time, if you're returning to lane from base, or maybe you base, you go bot, you try and gank, and then you teleport top, all of the time it should be going to this tower so you get the reduced cooldown. Every single time you teleport should be to your tower, unless it's to gank, or to reinforce a side lane, or if like you're teleporting to a super minion that's attacking this tower so that your team can kill it. Yeah, like the Lysandra didn't die. Good thing Kha'Zix is up there, but this was a complete misplay. I really don't like the teleport to the minion. Yeah. And then again, if it's a stronger opponent, 1, you should have died to the Lysandra, but 2, even if the Lysandra would have done that, she should have known that you'd have a teleport ready to go, and she should have backed off. So there should have been no possible chance of you even getting a kill onto her. But it is good that the Kha'Zix was up in time to save this farm, I guess. Okay, so at this time, you should be able to look at the minions and say, okay, there's a minion and a half, or a minion, like 1.5 minion waves attacking just over 1 minion wave. So this is going to push into the Lysandra anyways, and there's 2 people here. Lysandra's about to come back. In this case, you can time how fast a 350 move speed champion takes to go from base to lane. And you can time, okay, Lysandra backed at this time. When is she, like, what's the soonest she's able to get back to lane? And you can make sure that you're not overextended. And then, okay, so a nice leap strike out. And what you want to say to your team is Kha'Zix top, Kha'Zix Mia. And then you can check, okay, how much move speed did Kha'Zix have? Okay, you also had 350. How long does it take for someone to go from mid to, or from top to mid at 350 move speed? You can do this in custom games. And again, it's very important to take the quickest route, so as to, like, say it's possible that he's here at this time. So now you can actually, like, and these are things that I do sometimes in my games, and I try to do a lot in my games, is you're basically pinging where Kha'Zix's position can be when he's moving from top to mid. And that way your team doesn't get caught out. So at this point, okay, so that's fine. Just continue farming, waiting for this wave to reset for the most part. You're at half, you're really low. This is a, just go back. You might die again. Excuse me. So at this point, the lane is pretty much lost until dragon fights start happening, or until you get a jungle assistance. So this is a really hard spot to be in. But what you do in this sort of situation is you can spam ping. That is fine. I don't really like spam pinging when I'm the one that's behind, because quite frankly, your Sejuani should not be ganking your lane. Your lane is lost. You are insanely far behind. You are she has more than double your CS, and the lane is pushing away from you. There is no reason that Sejuani should be ganking your lane, because all that Sejuani can hope to achieve by ganking the losing lane is to get even. And you never want to make plays that catch you up. You always want to make plays that push you further ahead. And these kind of plays would be ganking bottom. And again, the reason for that is because Sivir has 2 kills. Sivir's up about 10 CS worth of gold. And if Sejuani can capitalize on that and make Sivir 4-1 or 5-1 by a really nice sequence or series of ganks, Sejuani can make Sivir, basically your bot lane plus assists, more fed than the amount of farm or I guess the amount of gold that Lissandra's getting up on you. So the whole thing here is, don't expect Sejuani to gank, because she shouldn't be ganking the losing lane. What you should be doing here is basically freezing under your tower, trying to get as much farm as possible, and then when the lane slow pushes out, Lissandra would want to be freezing it back here. Lissandra's just going to freeze the wave, because she knows that if she's positioning properly in front of her minions, she has a gold advantage that's big enough that you shouldn't be able to all-in her and kill her. So she can basically abuse the brushes now, wait for the wave to push here about, and zone you out of 3, 4, 5, 6 waves of farm. So what you want to do is just freeze this as much as you can, or I guess since she recalled and it's on a cannon wave, you would actually want to push this really hard so that she loses the cannon to the tower or has to use a lot of mana to clear it. That will effectively reset the wave. If she pushes it into you, that's actually really nice for you. You can thank her because she's giving you a lot of safe farm. Then it's just, try not to take too much damage, and try to pick up as much gold as possible. But the big thing here is try not to fall behind in levels. So as long as you keep up on experience, you wait for this wave to push into Lissandra, then she'll be freezing it. And once this gets past river to a point where you are not safely able to farm anymore, you go back and you just clear Krugs. And that's really the rinse and repeat. Because if she slow pushes, eventually it's going to get to tower, your tower, where there's 3 or 2.5 minion waves here that have slow pushed into your tower. And since you've cleared Krugs and all that, you're not as far behind. You can get 2.5 waves of minions safely. So the idea here is you want to try and stay as safe as possible. That was a really late ultimate though, and this, you're dead. So, okay, so that was really weird. Yeah, just I don't know. But it was, I don't really understand the ward jump to the ward that's on you, but I do like how, for a second there I was going to say don't run to Kha'Zix, run up to the Lissandra, because even though, they're both going to get experience for the kill, make sure that Kha'Zix doesn't get the assist. If you have to die, make sure you're giving the fewest amount of people possible credit for that kill. So it was good to only give Lissandra credit for that kill. Okay, so this is actually really good. If you're losing your lane, you want the tower to fall as early as possible. If you're winning the lane, like the Lissandra, you want to make sure that the tower is alive for as long as possible. So pushing here was actually really good for the red side. The reason for this is because now Jax can safely farm this. If Lissandra was pulling a 225% CS lead onto the Jax, doubling someone's CS at 10 minutes isn't that big of a deal. It would be more painful for the Jax player if the Lissandra was doubling his CS at 20 minutes, at 30 minutes. That would be a huge deal, because now you're not just looking at 30 gold or 30 CS, you're looking at 100 CS, 200 CS, and that is almost impossible to come back from. So when you're winning a lane like that super decidingly, make sure to keep this tower up as long as possible to starve the enemy laner. Yeah. So it was good for the Lissandra though to take the tower, then immediately make a play on the other half of the map. This is comparable to the rotation I basically set out by the other video, the intro to rotations video, from taking bottom and then rotating mid and taking dragon. That's kind of the flip side of that. You take top, you make a play, and you take dragon, and then you go and you take mid. I really like that. So at this point in time, the ultimatum: do you want to grab this farm? And the reason you're freezing this isn't for this wave; it's for the next 2 waves that come after. So do you want the next 2 waves of minions while you're losing your mid tower, or do you want to pressure this tower so that they don't just take your inner? So at this point in time, or I guess you can't use the trinket. My UI is getting a little bugged out though, because you use it here. But 2 towers and a dragon at 11 minutes into the game, that's a really big deal. So when as soon as you saw Lissandra teleport around here, or if she just ran there, you should be pushing this as hard as you can. Taking this, and it's not just taking the tower, you're getting the farm regardless, you're applying pressure. And if they're pressuring the bot half really, really hard, make sure you're pressuring the top side at least a little bit to make sure that they just don't run away with the game. So for the last basically for the last 12 minutes of the game, you've been responding to your opponents. And that's really bad. It could be worse. You could be 0-5, but it's risky. Being 0-1 with a lost tower isn't the worst thing in the world. You have half the CS that you should have at this point in time, but all things considered, you aren't that far behind on your team, so that's fine. So since you forced Lissandra back, you can freeze this and wait for Diana to get there. But at this point in time, laning phase is over for you. So what dictates the end of the laning phase? When an outer tower falls. So an outer mid falls, or outer top falls, outer mid falls, and now the outer bottom has fallen. This is the end of the early game. Now the mid game happens. And what happens when the mid game starts? People start grouping up and you start team fights and split push strategies. So the laning phase has officially ended. And now we assess, where are we? Laning phase ends and we're 6k gold behind. How should we play this out? Do we want to split push? Do we want to group up? These are things that you should be asking yourself. You can also assess, how is our vision control? Oh look, it's non-existent. So those are 2 of the biggest things. It's what do we want to do now? Laning phase has ended. Do we want to group? Do we want to split push? If we want to split push, should we 4-1 or do we 1-1-3? Vision control, regardless, we're going to need more vision control. We only have 1 ward on the map. Our support's nowhere near Sightstone, and Jax is nowhere near Triforce. So, and again, 5k, 6k gold down at 12 minutes in the game, it should just be game. There should be no way that blue should lose. But again, it is solo queue, it's silver to gold in solo queue, and throws happen all the time. So, yeah, so you see that there's 1 person mid, you saw that there was 1 person top, so there can be 3 people around you. Yeah, so you need to be a little bit careful. And here's the teleport. So you're not able to take this tower, and you can almost, you can expect that someone's coming up for you, because that was a lot of pressure. And again, that was a late ult. Try and ult as soon as possible as Jax, and you're pretty much dead. Flashing there, I don't really like it, because you should be dead. Let's just see. Yeah, so flashing there was just unnecessary, because now you don't have your flash for the next dragon fight, and that's huge. Having flash for a big fight like that, that could be the thing that decides the game. So, and really, Lissandra didn't have to waste a lot by doing that. I can't really see what her summoners are at, but she really only took 200 HP. So, and that also lost the tower for you. So, yeah, so at this point in time, I will say that it's pretty much over. But there are misplays that can happen all the time. One of the biggest things I see wrong for the blue side is they still have their bot lane down here. What you need to be doing if you're this far ahead at this early of the game, especially as a Caitlyn, you haven't hit your fall off yet. You haven't hit the fall off of your mid game yet. you're still pushing the early game Caitlyn spike, you need to be grouping up and sieging. If you can siege, you can, or not even siege, but maybe 4-1 split, because they do have a Sejuani and a Sivir. That's a lot of AoE damage with the Sona. But even if it's just like a 4-1 split with the Lissandra, make sure you're grouping up, where like you're pushing bottom while she's pushing top, or pushing mid and bottom now. You need to be trying to close this game out before the Jax gets huge and the Sivir gets huge. Yeah, so that was a bit of a misplay. And again, I'm not going to go too much into detail because everybody probably already realizes if you're really far behind, don't just be making random plays without having sufficient vision control, because that's not going to go over really well. Like, there's no wards here. You can see where all of them are now, though. Like, you know Kha'Zix was low, he's recalling. You know that there's 2 bottom and 2 mid. You can push this, at least for now, until you see that they're running back up. But, again, bot lane should not be bot lane by themselves. Like, this is stupid. This is just stupid, 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 stupid. And that should not have happened. They should be grouping up. 4-1 splitting with the Lissandra. The Thresh is getting so greedy. Like, yeah, that shouldn't be happening. But 2 outer towers are gone, 1 outer tower remains. Trading it for an, 2 inner towers are gone, 1 inner tower remains. Trading that for an outer tower is a fine trade. They did not need to give up the kills bottom, though. They should not stay here. You do not keep pushing. You group up. So a bit of a misplay by the blue side, but hopefully you can transition that into something. But yeah, so at this point, all you can really do as the red side is try to ward up as much as possible and try to get a couple picks based on positional error, like they did bot side of the map. So that's really good. As the Jax player, first thing I would try to do is place a ward here, get a pink, place it here, upgrade your yellow trinket so you get the 2 charges, because that's what you need at this point in the game. Pink this brush, and try and place a ward in your try, and try and place a ward behind your red buff, and just try to regain control of your jungle. That will allow you to safely take this CS, and just kind of hover between top, mid, and Krugs and Raptors. Like Sejuani, yeah, okay, Sejuani, that's fine and all. I'm sure she needs gold, but it's not Sejuani's game, and it's not Sejuani's job to win your games for you. Take everything, and try and just catch up in CS as much as you can. So you see that Kha'Zix is behind you. He runs away right away, so you know that there's no help from anybody else. Okay, so they're going for the dragon fight, and because you flash, you shouldn't have your flash up right now. So again, this is what I was talking about before. You don't have your flash, so you can't flash Q somebody. So that's really limiting your effectiveness in the fight. And Sivir ends up getting shut down. You're in a really nice position to get flank. So here, ult. Ult as soon as you run into this brush and they're about to engage. So, yeah. So it looks like they ended up losing the fight. Oh, wow, he's really fed. Okay, never mind. If she goes in, you can Q her. Okay, yeah, and it's just looking really bad. And again, there's like next to no vision control here. You know, no vision control around dragon. You don't want to start dragon fights. So, yeah. So I'm just gonna keep going forward like this. Build-wise, I would prefer to see Sheen before Zeal. Sheen gets you a lot more upfront damage than the Zeal will, and you don't need that kind of move speed early on. You don't need the Vamp right now, you don't need the Null Magic Mantle right now. You need to be finishing your Triforce and trying to hit whatever kind of damage spike you can at this point. It looks like he either AFK'd or he's typing to his team, and at this point, yeah, it looks like he was typing. It looks like there's a lot of rage going on. Because he stopped moving for so long. He might be typing to his allies, and then someone started pinging him. So it looks like there's a lot of toxicity on the team right now. And considering he's taking the Sivir's farm, it's good that you're taking the Sivir's farm because it's your game. Make sure you get as far ahead as possible, but you really need to finish the Triforce. Triforce is what's going to give you the spike to kind of push team fights over the edge for your team. Right here. Okay, so yeah, warded it before going too deep. I was about to say, you know, don't be running and face checking stuff. They see Lissandra top. You see that, okay, she has a lot of HP. You see, okay, but she's the only one we see on the map. So maybe everybody's waiting right here You don't know. So maybe everyone's waiting here for you to run through jungle, and they're going to catch you out of position, kill you, and take an inhibitor. So this is a very possible thing that can happen because you don't have vision on the map. And, you know, that's not the case, but you have to be aware of that. You know, catches like this, baits like this, it's very possible, and you see them a lot in higher level play. Yeah. So again, there's no vision. You need to regain that vision control, regain control of the jungle. And yeah, so I'm just going to keep going through so that I'm not just repeating myself. But yeah, so finish basically on Jax and Aurelia. They build really similar. Finish your Triforce as soon as possible. Go Phage or Sheen first, and then basically get the other one second. Zeal last. The Sheen gives you as much burst as possible. Phage is a very nice, consistent, steady fighting item. In this sort of situation, though, I would have gotten the Sheen first because it gives you the most burst, obviously. Phage, mobility. Okay, so she didn't see you. That's kind of funny. Okay, so that was a nice play. It gives up a lot of control on the mid and top side of the map, but that kind of cross-map play I really like. So those are the types of things that you should be looking at. The only thing is you're giving up top pressure. But making plays like that, really good. And I mentioned this in, I'm not sure if I uploaded it, but it was basically the argument that you should always be taking Ignite if you don't make teleport plays. So if you're not using your teleport whenever your teleport's off cooldown, you want to be taking Ignite. But since I see that you're using your teleport as much as possible, even if it's on, you know, minions instead of towers, it's still really good that you are making these sorts of plays because these are getting your team back in the game. So I really like this. Oh wow, he's really squishy. Yeah, that's really good. Even when Jax is behind, like Jax is really strong, you need to respect that. Considering Kha'Zix is building weird, he doesn't have any defense against the Jax. Like Jax still has some items. It's not like he's completely starved. He has a lot of farm. So again, that's really good. Keeping up on the CS. And then at this point, you should be asking, okay, I'm recalling right now. What do I need to do to win the game? You just ask yourself that, and you just say, okay, well, we don't have a lot of vision of Baron. We're still, you know, fairly far behind, and if you tally up, say, okay, each tower is roughly 1,000 gold, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5,000 plus 6 kills. 3 kills is about 1,000 gold, so that's another 2,000, so about 7,000. Okay, so we're roughly 7,000 gold behind, because Dragon doesn't give you gold anymore. And look, 7,000 gold behind. You can say, okay, so we're a little bit behind in gold. We're still behind in towers. We have lacking vision control a little bit, and we're roughly 7,000 gold behind. I am scaling to the point where I am able to kill their jungler. So chances are I can kill their support. I just got my Triforce. Caitlyn's about to hit her mid game, which kind of sucks. She has Infinity, like it sucks for her. She has Infinity Edge, so she still has damage. But for the most part, considering me as the Jax player, I can kill, you know, for sure 2 people on the team, on the enemy team. Is my team capable of 4v3ing? Because if I kill 2 of them, I end up dying. Will my team be able to like clean up the fight? Those are some things you need to ask yourself and just kind of look at it. Okay, well, Sivir seems to be really far ahead of the Caitlyn. Sivir has a much stronger mid game than the Caitlyn, or than Caitlyn. She's also items up. The only thing to consider is Heimerdinger has a lot of damage. And, you know, if you're making sure you're always pressing tab, that's something to consider. Okay, so someone pinged top lane. So at this point, like well over level 9, should be upgrading your trinket. It's only 250 gold. You'll have 2 wards on you. You can ward the Tri-Brush, you can ward the blue entrance, or you can go and kill the Scuttle Crab. You can see that, you know, Thresh is here. Very unlikely that Thresh is by himself holding mid. So there's probably at least 2 people around mid, which, yeah, okay, there's a couple people around mid. 3-ish, I guess. And, okay, so they see that there are 2 people pushing top. They're going to send at least 1 person up here to defend it. Now, I saw that there were around 2 people mid. there could be 2 people mid because, again, the support's not going to be mid by himself. I see that Kha'Zix is there. So there's 2 people mid for sure. They're going to be sending 1 person up here. There can be up to 3 people here. Jax and Sivir, are we capable of killing the tower and killing 3 people? So, no, that's something to consider. And, and again, this is one of the things where just because it worked doesn't mean it will work. No vision control, and this was, like, the reason you were able to do that is because of the slow rotation by Thresh, Kha'Zix, and Caitlyn. So as players get better, players get stronger, these types of rotations upwards and like rotations along the map will get faster. So you need to make sure that you can account for those and that inherent risk by placing more wards. And yeah, well, that's exactly how you do that. So yeah, but the Triforce is had. Triforce, again, a really, really strong spike. How do you counter a Caitlyn? Well, Caitlyn's the weakest at her mid game, so we want to get champions who have strong mid games. Kha'Zix just uses ultimate. You know that that cooldown's unavailable, so you can time that. You know that Kha'Zix has red buff, so you can time that. Red buff's on a 90-second or 2-minute duration. I should know that. I haven't looked at it recently. Lulking that or look at patch notes for the duration. But Kha'Zix is running in very aggressively, so it looks like there are people around to help. Kha'Zix just popped Sona, but if there were more wards around here, you may have been able to get onto the Heimerdinger. Unfortunately, my UI is kind of screwy, so I can't see if you have the flash, but flashing over and queuing onto the Heimerdinger would have been fine to do. He is the most fed one on the enemy team, and he just got another kill. So popping him, or at least making him burn his Zonias, would have been fine. But, it's looking rough. Okay. I'm not sure who the... okay, the Lissandra teleport, that's why. But that was cute by the Thresh. But yeah, and then what you can do at this point in time is if your teleport's up, which I can't really see, I think it is, I don't remember, like the last teleport was bot lane, so the teleport should be up. Basically just run top and push that as hard as you can. When you're this far behind, you know that you can't win the 5v5. Like, you know there's no hope for this tower, it's just gonna fall. Dragon, you can't contest that, you have very little vision of this area and you can't win a 5v5. 10,000 gold down at 23 minutes is huge. For the most part, though, your team has kept up in levels. The biggest thing, though, is that Heimerdinger and Diana. The huge level discrepancy is big, and at this point in time, like, actually, that was a really nice Sona ult. I'm not sure what was up with that Caitlyn flash, though, but yeah, this is fine. This is really lucky for the red side. But, again, this is capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes. So they stayed for a little bit longer. That shouldn't actually happen. But that was a really nice ult by the Sona. And, ooh, missed skill shot. And the next dragon. Okay, so right there, when you see that, oh, her buff, her Dragon Slayer buff just went to 3. What time is it? 2400? Okay, so around 30 minutes, Dragon's going to be up. So you just do those micro sort of really fast calculation, not even calculation, but timers. At this point, don't chase. Really, really low. She potentially could have picked up the double while there are super minions on your Nexus tower. So I guess it's fine that you got the kill, but Nexus tower is a little more important. Okay, so at this point, it is pretty much over. Just keep clearing minions until the inhibitor respawns. You know, the common, and these are, you know, your ward spots right here, right here. These two are very, very, very important. Also, you can place a pink around your inhibitor to check this out in case in the middle of a fight, like ward between the, if you can control this area, place a pink right here. That's going to make sure that in a fight, you still have the vision that a tower would provide for the Kha'Zix. So pink, if you can control it. Green ward, sweep this brush. Green ward, and then green ward, you can pink this and sweep this area. And those 4 wards, basically 1, 2, 3, 4 are the four most important wards to have at this point in the game, because they are the only thing that's allowing you to exit your base safely. So you start with those wards, you keep pushing out this wave, and at the very least make sure you kill the cannon or the super minion and get it slow pushing before you leave this lane. And then you set up these wards, you slowly regain control until your inhib spawns, and then you extend your vision control outwards until you can secure Dragon and Baron vision. And again, capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes. If I was on the blue side, all I would say is let's just group up. And that's all they need to do. Quite frankly, they just need to group and push down mid and they'll win the game. There's no reason that they should be doing anything cute. Like they're really far ahead, they just need to group and end. But this is a throw, so it's fine. But again, that Nexus Tower. Okay, so if anyone goes back, it should be the Jax. Jax can clear really fast. Like Sona, what? Or I guess if she died or if she was low, but the Sona should not be going back. Sona has no wave clear. Jax should be going back. And then at this point in time, like, what's Sivir doing? So something like that. Only one person go back. Like, you only need one person to push this out. Everyone else stay with Sivir or spam ping her back. This would be the time to spam ping her back. But again, no vision control and dead ADC at 26 minutes in when jungler just respawned. Down inhibitor mid lane. Yeah, that looks like Baron. So again, I'm just going to speed through this. Really, all they need to be doing is staying together. Backing off. Kha'Zix is going way too hard for this. Oh, that was a really cool animation. And it looks like they're engaging without their carries. So if you're really far ahead, don't engage without your carries. Your carries are your primary damage dealers. Yeah. And... the ping should be for this inhib tower, it shouldn't be for the Nexus towers. Nexus towers are a little bit too early. Chasing, again, this is the big waste of time. You don't need to kill the Sona. Killing the Sona isn't going to do anything for you. There's no way Sona can defend this tower. You're just wasting time. Just push this wave and get the free inhib. But this is just the whole, how do you close out a game? And really, if you're this far ahead, just group up and push down mid or push down top and take another inhibitor. If they try to engage you and they get aced, they lose the game. If it's to the point where you aren't able to end the game without Baron, then you would set up the inhibs and put it into a position where you go get Baron. Then you get Baron and you use that to end the game. But if you can win the game without getting Baron, you don't need to worry about it. Heimerdinger should just place down his turrets and then back off, because they can be engaging with, or they can be respawning with home guards, and really, really, really scary for you. So yeah, but again, I just want to skip past this part because the game it was a snowball. It was a steamroll. You know, lost control of the game very early. And basically anything else doesn't really matter, where it's just a result of losing control of it so early. So they take Baron. They should push down mid. And then just end the game because they don't need anything else. But they decided to engage 3v5, or I guess 4v5. I guess engaging without your carry is, or I guess engaging with your carry is too hard. And they're just delaying this game way too far. Okay, so let's just... Kate gets more kills. I want to see them group mid or group bottom. Actually, what they should be doing is just 5-manning bottom, taking the last inhib tower, taking the inhibitor, and just running over and killing mid inhib. And then letting minions push in as they kill the Nexus towers. 11,000 gold up at this point. Caitlyn doesn't have a lot of damage, and you know, the build is fine. Double AP, getting Spirit Visage, it's not the greatest. I think Banshee's Veil still would have been better, but definitely a good choice to go for the magic resist third. Yeah, there's not a lot to say at this point in the game. It just looks like they're closing it out. And yeah, so I know there's going to be like the whole, well, how do I come back when I'm at this point in the game? The whole thing, like, you don't. You know, there's the whole, how do you win if they're 50 point, like basketball? How do you win if they're 20 points up and you only have two minutes left in the game? Well, you don't. So, you know, at least when you were only one inhibitor down, there was still hope to maybe ward up and start split pushing and trying to do all of this and regaining control of river. But at this point, it's over. You know, just fell way too far behind, and I know it might appear that it's it's the scrub Diana's fault for dying 12 times to the Heimerdinger, or no, it's my crappy 9-17 bot lane. It's not my fault. I'm 10-3 in this game. Well, if you're 10-3, you have the most gold on your team by far. Like, you're 2,000 gold up on anyone else on your team. This is your game to win. Your team put you in the position to win the game, and you know, if you aren't able to do it, it's not your team's fault, it's your fault. And it's I know it's annoying when you feel like you have a decent game, but your allies are feeding and everything like that. But you know, there are things that you can do, very, very simple things to do, that can set you up for success. And one of those more important things, and very simple things to do, is like I mentioned earlier, where you just hug the top of the map. That's really all there is to it. So that's the game. Ended up losing, but really I'm going to bring this up here because this is the big part that I wanted to focus on. So 1, make sure you push for the very fast level 2. 2, make sure you do a proper fan out at the beginning of the game so that you know if their trinket is up. 3, apart from pushing, if you're melee into ranged, make sure you abuse these brushes. These brushes are going to allow you to safely farm. You're not going to be, you know, 18 CS when Lissandra's at 50 or 60. So 18 CS at like 7 minutes in, that's really bad. And that all could have been avoided if you abused these brushes a little more, or at all, in the early stage of the game. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest part, the biggest little screw up that I've found. Of course, you know, longsword may have been a little bit of a better opener, because you wouldn't really be able to auto a lot with the Doran blade to make up for the like the lifesteal. You wouldn't really be able to make that efficient, or more efficient than the 300 health that the other 2 potions would have provided by going longsword. These, again, they'd allow you to get more farm. It would also pressure top lane a little bit more, and you'd be able to farm safer. You'd overall have more HP, so that even when Kha'Zix comes here, you wouldn't be able to give up that early kill. And yeah, so those are a few things. And again, if you didn't give up that early kill, you wouldn't have lost the early tower. And if you didn't lose the early tower, you know, Lissandra wouldn't have made the early play or teleport, rotation, whatever, bot lane, which wouldn't have been the early dragon and like the early double kill or whatever it was. And that wouldn't have translated into the early mid lane falling. And although it doesn't, you know, you might not just think, oh, it wasn't my fault, I did relatively well. You know, the whole game started going really bad once your tower fell, because then mid fell, they got the dragon, and the game just went out of control. So all of that can be traced back into shove your lane really hard right away, and take full advantage of these brushes. And then just doing those 2 things, you're saving your tower, you're saving mid tower, you're saving a dragon. Game's not going to be out of control by 11 minutes just by doing those 2 things. So, of course, if anyone has any other questions, concerns, if I said something that didn't really make sense or I seem to contradict myself, let me know in the comments, and I'll clear those up if there are any questions, concerns, little things of confusion. And yeah, if you want me to go over your games like this, I can do any role, any skill level. Not a problem. Just send me the game, either a link on YouTube or message me saying that you've added me on League of Legends, and I'll spectate your game through their spectator like I've done this game. So yeah, that's about it. Check the comments, or check the description below for the what's it called? Social media links, everything like that. feel free to message, comment, like, subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. I have a Twitter that I guess is in the description. I share everything through there. Also, mainly, I go through Facebook and YouTube. So yeah, those would be the places to check or to message, to request, anything like that. And yeah, so that's about it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.